back to here. And then we'll put in a flat plate here where the airbag will mount. Welcome back to the workbench, where we try to make things, and we're continuing to try to make today is Revell's Ford FD-100 pickup, the Foose design pickup that they did. We're doing it different. If you've been keeping up with the build, you know that we're doing this a little different. We're going to be putting it on air ride or on airbags. And so it's taken a little bit of work with the chassis. As you can see, the chassis is a bit chopped up. And by the way, if you want to get caught up on this build, if you've missed kind of some of the earlier episodes, check the description down below. There's a link down there. And also there's a link if you'd like to build along, if you'd like to try to do this yourself, there's a link down there where you can get a kit of your own. Now, we already did the back, as we all know. We notched the back rails. Now we need to make room for the little airbags that we're making for up front. There's no room for them, or there was no room for them before. In fact, there wasn't even any front suspension in this kit because it had an axle that would run through it, so the wheels would turn. So we're having to make room for suspension, essentially, which would be, in this case, airbags. And these are going to be, I don't even know what you call it. I'm going to end up putting shock tops and bottoms on these, where it's the airbag that's all in one with the shock. I'm not sure if those have a name. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments if those have a different name than just airbag. I don't know. I'm sure they do. Probably like a strut bag. I don't know. Let me know. But anyways, what I've done, I remembered I actually took some footage and some photos of the process of doing this. Previously, we had locked the chassis down to what we're calling our chassis table. It's a piece of MDF that I've drawn some lines on to make sure everything's straight and square. And basically, I just used my little coping saw to start cutting plastic, which is always terrifying. I mean, I guess this kit's still available, so I can always go buy another one if I really goof it up. But I don't want to do that because that's hard to get by the financial department, which, you know, the financial department here at the channel is my wife, and that's never an easy sell or easy buy, whichever way you want to look at it. But I did go ahead and chop on either side of the A-arms because I wanted to retain the stock A-arms. And I think the plan, so, well, to get back to it, so yeah, I cut them out, front and back, and then I realized, idiot, you forgot to put in the jigs for the uprights. I forgot to put in the upright jigs for the spindles, you know, to make sure everything's lined up. So I kind of just placed these back where they came from, and then put in my spindle jigs, which it should be fine. I literally made sure that the frame rails fit right back where they came from, and then put in these jigs because I need that for the bottom assembly here. I need to be able to locate that down here so that when we start putting this back together, when I graft in the top rails, I'm able to locate where this guy is going to go. So that's what I went ahead and put those in. You can see it kind of fits right in there, pretty snug, but a little bit loose so we can move it around. And then I'll be able to put in, because the idea, so here's my idea, and it's probably, I don't know if this was the right way I don't know what the right way to do this was, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, because I didn't want to change, really change the stock upper A-arms. I didn't want to cut them. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is just cutting out, well, what I'll do, you know, what I'm going to have to do, actually, now that I'm even looking at this, let's look at this together. So we've got this notch in this thing here. This is where that axle I was telling you used to ride. The axle would kind of just sit right in there, just a metal axle, so that the wheels would turn. And then, of course, that's why there was no suspension in here, because you couldn't, with that axle running through the middle here, nothing could fit in there. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to box this rail in, box that in to get rid of this, you know, this, here's my plan. I want to cut this rail like somewhere in here. Does that make sense? So cut all of the bottom of this out because I want to graft the top of this into my rail patch that I'm putting in here, my notch, right? Because we're only trying to get about 1.5 millimeters up. Move this up 1.5 millimeters. Can you guys even see what I'm talking about? Let me let me kind of turn this stuff so maybe you can see. I want to move this rail up. There we go. Up just about 1.5 millimeters. Not much. That's all we need. I know it's a lot of work just for almost nothing. But that means but I want to graft this on top of that. If that makes sense. Let me hold it like so. So I need to cut, but if I went to just cut it now like that, obviously this would split in half. This rail would split in half. So I'm gonna have to box this in first thing. And then trim it down, and then graft that into the upper rail, or not the upper rail, but the frame rail that we're going to be putting in here. The new frame rail we're putting in there. And then what I think I'm going to do is so that's going to obviously cause gap between, we're going to have about 1 millimeter, 1.5, well, we should have a 1.5 millimeter gap between, in the middle of the upright, or in the middle of the spindle here, where it won't connect anymore. And so I think I'll just extend that. I'll just add material in here to extend it. I'm going to remove this little, I don't even know what we want to call this, a little disc piece that's here. I'll fill the hole and then just extend, and it will do it kind of like a drop spindle. You know what I mean? So it'll be a taller spindle, and we'll be able to connect. Oh, I left the wheels across the way. We'll use the Mustang's wheels. I'll be able to connect the wheel kind of wherever I want on that spindle. It'll be like a drop spindle. But that'll also give us the room in here, because this will all be gone. It'll give us the room in here for the airbag. So the airbag will be able to fit, because all this material here will be gone. It'll fit up in there. And that brings me to actually the lower A-arm. So the old cross member down here, it used to turn, I can probably show you, it used to turn up into, actually I've got it backwards, there we go. You can see where it used to turn up into the upper rail, and that was that connection. I had to cut it here, obviously. Cut it here. So I'm going to take that out. So we'll cut this back to here, and then we'll put in a flat plate here where the airbag will mount in here. But then I still, I guess I'm trying to think how I want to do. I probably need to make connection again from this cross member to the rail. So I'll probably do it from back here, make that connection. Again, all this material is going to be gone, and it's going to be a little bit more. I've got it backwards like an idiot. Where's the right one? So yeah, so this is going to kind of be sitting here like so. I hope this is all making sense to you guys. It's all going to be sitting here but all that's going to be gutted. So I'll have to make a connection from the frame rail to here, somewhere in here. Of course, we're going to have a motor sitting here. So we got to keep that in mind. So I might have to come as straight down as I can. I just want to make sure I have as much room in here. I'm going to come as straight down as I can and still miss I think we'll be able to get this bag pretty good ways up in there. I think I'll be able to come pretty straight down from the new frame rail to the cross member, leaving enough room. I want to leave as much room in here, not necessarily for the motor, but for headers and for exhaust to get out of there. But that should also mean that our this lower cross member will also be back in its original position. So most of that stuff should kind of live, as far as, everything should kind of, on the bottom side of the suspension, everything should still be where it normally lived. So any parts, hopefully exhausts and things like that, should have plenty of room, because we're not moving. That's not moving up. That's staying right where it needs to be. And the only other thing I need to do is, we got a lot of when I cut this, it obviously boop, and I didn't really think about it, because this is not where the frame needs to be. The frame actually needs to be here. So before I do anything, I'm actually going to put the frame rails back in place like so, and then match that back up on that height it needs to be. This is hard to do and have you guys be able to see what I'm talking about. But I'll shim underneath the backside of here, so this frame is down where it's supposed to be in the stock location. Let me get that out of there. if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So if I put this back where it goes, like so, and then I can get that stock height back in that, you can't even see, back into that frame rail. But I'll just shim it underneath here, I think. And it won't take much. It's about right there is where it needs to be. But I don't want this kind of flopping around while we're trying to rebuild the frame rail up there. I hope that all makes sense. It's a slow process because I want to make sure and get everything square and right. I've had to realign this front piece quite a few times because the my clamps keep popping off. But that's why I drew in the marks where it goes. So I know exactly where this needs to sit. This is tied in. I just need to set it where it needs to go exactly like that. And once that's done, I can start rebuilding frame rail. That's the plan, at least. We'll see. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm sure there was probably a way easier way to do this. I mean, honestly, I could have just cheated it, made a smaller bag, kind of stuffed it in there and just cheated everything and not moved anything around and then just moved the wheel up like we're talking about. But I want to make sure and get a scale size bag in there and everything. I don't know. And it's a bit of a learning process for me, but let me know what you think down in the comments. Is it, I don't know. Is it going to work? Let me know if it's going to work. You think it's going to work? I don't know. Let me know down there. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed this. I need to get back to work on it. But if you want to keep following along, hit the subscribe button. Hit all those notifications. I don't know what it is. Whatever all the buttons are, whatever you're supposed to do on YouTube, do that for me. And I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.